Okay, number 65. I should have clued in earlier. That is the title of this video. As always, please like this video, comment on it below, click on the subscribe button. All of those things help people to see these videos because of YouTube algorithms. So I have to start this by saying that it's so noisy where I am today. The city is trimming trees just outside the window. There's aircraft overhead. There are police sirens. There's dogs barking. It's just so loud. So I apologize if some of the background noise comes out on this video. I've picked the quietest room in the house. So today I want to talk about mediumship experiences that I had before I ever knew what mediumship was. So if you're wondering if you're a medium or if you have an ability or an inclination toward mediumship, this might be a good video for you. So I'll do it in chronological order, starting in early childhood. When I was about 6 and 7, right about then, that age, I started to feel, I knew there were people in the house with me. And initially, I thought it was my brothers, my older brothers hiding, like to play a game or to jump out and scare me. I wasn't frightened. I just knew that there were people in the house. But I was home alone a lot as a child. I grew up in isolation. I was a latchkey kid, if you remember that phrase. And so I was home alone by myself a lot. And even then, I would feel that there were people in the house. To the point, like after I'd opened all the closets and looked under all the furniture and made sure it wasn't one of my brothers, I went around knocking on the walls of our house, trying to hear a hollow sound to look for secret passages because I had seen that in cartoons. So that started really early. And I have to say, I got them then and I get them now as people. I knew there were people in the house, not ghosts, not spirits. You'll never hear me say I have a mother energy or I have an attorney energy. I get them as people. I think of people in spirit the same way I think of people in other countries. They are people somewhere else. That's how I get them. So that was as early as 6 and 7 years old. And then around 8 or 9, I would say, was my earliest expression of mediumship because I was a child, right? So I thought I had this magical finding thing ability. Because like I would send, if my mother and I went to a department store, I would send her in ahead of me and I'd count down like 100 or whatever. And then I'd go in the store and I'd go directly to wherever she was because I felt nudged to, turn left or go up the escalator, turn left again, turn right, and there would be mom. So I consider this my first expression of mediumship because it's the first time I was ever following impulses and taking action. I didn't know it was coming from people in spirit. I thought I had this magic finding ability thing. But I was following impulses exactly the same way that I do to say things when I'm doing a reading. Or to make certain gestures during a reading. And then starting around age 12, and this went on all through up to my adult life until I discovered mediumship officially, I would feel randomly, once a year, twice a year, once every couple of years, I'd feel a hand resting on the middle of my back. And I felt moved to say very specific things. So when this happened with other kids, it was no big deal because kids say weird stuff all the time. But especially when I was very young and this would happen with adults, the typical reaction I got was, how old are you? Because it was very philosophical. It was very insightful in a way that a child should not have been insightful. So that was when I first started passing messages on from people in spirit. Didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was supposed to say something very specific. And then in high school, there was an unfortunate period of my life where I went by Larry instead of Lawrence. And I would hear shouted from a distance, Larry, I would hear my name. And so I wear hearing aids now. I needed hearing aids then because part of my hearing loss is I have different degrees of injuries to my ears. So I hear things wrong. I hear sentences wrong. And so I just thought I was hearing, and I knew I heard things wrong. I've known that forever. Didn't realize it was a hearing related problem. Sounds dumb, but that's the truth. So I thought I was hearing Jerry, Carrie, Barry, and I was just hearing the airy part and adding the L in my head. So, but then it would happen when I was alone. I'd be walking home alone, or I'd be on campus alone, or in between classes all by myself, and I'd hear Larry, like shouted from a distance. That's how I get clairaudience now. If there was someone outside on the street, outside of my house, shouting at me, that's exactly how I used to hear Larry shouted. So that was my first experience of clairaudience, was in my teens. Again, had no idea that it was people in spirit. It's just something that was happening to me. And then when I was 25 years old, my dad's mom died. My grandma died. We were super close. And for weeks after she passed, I could feel her right behind my right shoulder. I realized as I was sketching out the outline for this video, I'm like, oh, right shoulder. That's how I get family side now as well. Dad's side is on the right side and mom's is on the left. That's how I get them. So I've always, because I grew up in an environment heavily influenced by Hopi Native Americans. I've always believed in an afterlife, but not really God, not the way Westerners think of that concept. So I expected my grandmother to continue. I expect everyone to continue when their bodies stop working. But she was the first one that I felt, I mean, she was just right there, like really close, and I knew who, so I knew there was someone in spirit, and I knew it was her. But I didn't think of that as a mediumship experience or any ability of mine. I just thought, well, that's my grandma. She loves me. Of course, she's there, right? So this one night, I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I get up to use the bathroom. My roommate was not home, the person I was living with at the time, so I was home all by myself. And I stopped in the hallway in between my bedroom and the bathroom, and I said out loud, it's not enough for me to feel you. I know you're there and I can feel you and we love each other, but I want to hear your voice. I want to feel the touch of your hand. And I knew it was wrong to turn around and try to look, so I just reached my hand back like that. And I didn't feel the sensation of anyone touching my hand. I didn't hear anything, but neither did that feeling of her being there go away. It was just there for weeks. So that was my first... the first time really I can think of where I felt someone in spirit. I knew who it was and I knew what was happening, but still didn't think of it as me having any kind of ability. The hand in the back thing continued for years and years and years. And even though, so eventually the John Edward Crossing Over TV show came on. I loved it. I watched it all the time. I never put it together that I was doing the same thing, passing on messages from somewhere else. It just didn't occur to me. Partially because no one that I was connecting with self-identified as dead grandma or dead spouse. It was just really specific things that I was moved to say with very specific wording. And then eventually my mom died. And that was slow and awful and terrible. So in the last days of her life, I was sitting next to her medical bed, and it was just the two of us. She was unconscious, but she was still at a point where she was sometimes waking up. So someone was always there, me, my husband, my brother, a nurse we hired. Somebody was always there in case she woke up and wanted a sip of water or something. So I'm sitting there, I'm reading a book. My mom's unconscious in the bed, and I could hear. And I knew I was hearing in my head, but I could hear her dad saying, not thee, like he was trying to get her attention. And I could hear one of her uncles saying, come on, champ, which is what he used to call her. And I burst into tears, and out loud, I said to my unconscious mother, oh my God, if I can hear them, you must be able to. Just go. It's your dad. Just let go. Because I and my older brother had said to her a few times, it's okay to go. You can just let go. Because she was definitely on her way out, and it was really gruesome and terrible. And it was just better if she left, which eventually she did. So that was one of the more dramatic things, because I could feel them with me, I could hear them. But again, I didn't think it was me. I thought, wow, they really love her. My mother loved her dad and her uncle, all her family. My mother was not a perfect person, but she really loved her family, and she really loved these two guys. And so that's what I thought it was. And I really, if you would ask me in the moment, or even up until discovering mediumship, I would have said any family member in the room probably would have been aware of something. I didn't think it was me. So there were a lot of indicators, a lot of indications that I should have clued into. So everything that I've just talked about and a few other minor things I chose to leave out, it's all obvious now. All of those were mediumship experiences. It wasn't obvious at the time. I had no clue at the time what was going on, but now it's super, super obvious. So if things are happening to you, especially if you've lost someone and you can still feel them, that is, feeling them is not mediumship, but feeling them and then narrating what you're feeling. I feel someone, I know it's my grandfather, blah, blah, blah. That's mediumship, narrating the experience that you're having and it being accurate, someone else being able to take it and say, yes, that's what that is. So next week, I'm going to talk about people in grief. And this is super important, this topic to me, because I have seen a few mediumship readings, either in professional demonstrations in public or in practice circles. I've seen people's grief mishandled. So I'm going to talk about that, people in grief, because if you are going to do mediumship for people and charge them for it, you're definitely going to encounter people at some level of grief, and I think that needs to be respected and honored. So I'm going to talk about that. Until then, please like this video, comment on it, click the subscribe button. All those things help people to see these. And until next time, thank you for watching this time. See you next week.